Nothing lasts forever. Be it a flower, a dream, or even your own life. One day this podcast will also come to an end, but it can live on in your memories. As the clock ticks down, we ask you to go to patreon.com/recesscastproductions to help us make this unforgettable content. You'll get bonus episodes, early access, and exclusive content to enjoy as the sands of time keep drifting away. That's patreon.com/recesscastproductions. And don't forget, you only have so much time left. Unis Honest. Wait, how the hell did that get in the script? Yeah, I forget why we're here. Welcome to the something. I'm your guy, John, Steve, Maximus.
Maximus?
Nah, I wrote it down somewhere. And here's the other guy somewhere with me. He'll say something. Maybe a name. Roger, Robert, Rutherford, maybe. I don't know. I'm sure it'll come to me eventually.
All right, I always wanted to be a Redford, or at least I think I've always wanted to be a Redford.
We'll figure it out. Anyway, there's some links down below. I can see them. I know they're there. You can click them. They'll go to places, including according to this, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, IRT Radio. iHeartRadio. That's what that is. Okay. Stitcher, Podcast Addict. I don't know what all these are. I think they're places that you can go to listen to stuff. But go check them out. I guess it's a thing. So Redford, why are we here?
Oh, shit. Hold on. I've got a tattoo on my arm. It says we're doing the After Credits podcast?
Oh, it's coming back to me. It's coming back to me. I think. Okay, so this is a show about movies, and we talk about them. And I am Max, and with me today is AJ, right?
Yes? Sure.
We'll go with that.
It's good to do the podcast with you, Max.
Yeah, this is unconventional, I think. Maybe. There's an intro song to this episode, if you heard it. I didn't hear it yet, but it's called Memories. It's by Andrew Lloyd Webber. I'm sure it's relevant.
Why do I feel like that's ironic?
I'm sure it's relevant to this somehow. I'll just keep going with this outline that's been put in front of me, and we'll see where this goes.
All right. It's good. Oh, you always got to take notes. I'm glad there's...
Got to take notes. Nothing can go wrong with notes. Again, due to scheduling shenanigans, our TV season adaptations season of TV adaptations. There we go. Words are hard. Is temporarily on hold until 2021. You can instead enjoy the temporary format change with August's... Actually, this should be updated as well. Fuck. With, is this coming out now?
Our notes aren't up to date.
They're really not up to date. June, I think it's July's Nolan Wars, where Ryan and I... Oh, hey, you're Ryan!
Ryan, there it
and
is.
And I'm will try to take on opposite opinions at the start of the podcast. One would be negative, one being positive, and I can't think of a better one to start with, Ryan, than 2000's Memento.
What was I supposed to like this movie?
According to my note... Oh, I have a note here. Great. Yeah, you're supposed to like this one, and I gotta fucking hate it.
Yeah, I fucking love this movie. This is great.
This movie is a fucking piece of shit.
Oh, I mean, the things that I liked about the movie escape me for the time being. But, I mean, we'll get there. I'm sure after we get a little bit into it, I'll remember why I actually like it.
I will remember and forget about this bit.
Yep.
And I can't think of it. Okay, we were at that part. Written by Christopher Nolan and Jonathan Nolan, the Nolan brothers, Super Nolan brothers. And the film would go on to gross $39,723,000, which is over four times what it cost.
Which is a pretty good return on investment.
For your second movie, yeah, pretty good. The cast includes some names. These are Callum Keith Rennie, Thomas Lennon, not related to John Lennon, I don't think, Stephen Tobolowsky, Mark Boone Jr., Joe Pantoliano, Carrie Ann Moss, and some guy Pierce.
Yeah, this guy named Pierce. Yeah. He's pretty good.
Yeah. I do believe he's actually the Mandarin.
I don't know why. I can't remember why that's funny.
Let's see. I got some awards here. This is an AFI Screenwriter of the Year award winner. A Saturn Award winner for Best Action Adventure Thriller. Okay, listen, that's 3 different fucking categories. Pick one and stick to it. An ACCA Award for Best Original Screenplay and Film Editing. And yes, I'm aware the last A stands for award, but no one knows what the ACCA is without me saying it's an award, so y'all can calm down.
It's obviously an award.
4 Golden Schmoes for the Best Line, the Best Actor, the Trippiest Movie, and Most Underrated Movie of the Year.
The best line? They gave what? What's the best line?
Well, obviously there's some coke in the movie somewhere.
Yeah, those lines are pretty good.
And an MTV Award for Best New Director, because, I mean, this is technically, I think, Christopher Nolan's first, actually out theatrical release film.
I have another tattoo that says that to remind me that the first movie that Christopher Nolan did, which apparently we've already talked about, was done, and he wasn't even in film school. He was
like that,
an English major? So coming right off of that and doing a really interestingly written, looking art kind of film, it said, all right, well, let's give him some real money and see what he can do with it. And then he's like, well, bam, here's an amazing story.
So I've got a tattoo on my arm, Ryan. I don't know what these scribbles are kind of weird. I don't think I have good handwriting. It says here, you have fun facts for me.
Yes. Ironically, that's also on the script, too. Fun fact number 1. The medical condition experienced by Leonard in this film is a real condition called anterograde amnesia, the inability to form new memories after damage to the hippocampus. Now, during the 1950s, doctors treated some forms of epilepsy by removing part of the temporal lobe, unfortunately resulting in the same memory problems. I have had similar experience with anterograde amnesia. I ate a very potent edible, and I was kind of blinking out every couple of seconds. It was not fun. It was actually kind of scary.
I will say this much.
But moving on.
I don't ever want to necessarily do drugs, but the idea of experiencing that once sounds interesting.
It's really interesting. It's very interesting. We'll tell you more about that on Podcast After Dark.
Huh? I feel like I need to get a hold of Nicole about that one.
Oh God. I have a conditioned fear response to that name. Anyway, next up on the fun facts, Carrie Ann Moss personally recommended Joe Pantoliano for the role of Teddy, having become good friends with him while they were working on The Matrix. Now, Christopher Nolan and his producers had reservations about this because they weren't sure Pantoliano's screen persona, which was often overtly villainous, was the right match for Teddy. But they met with him and decided his talent made him the right person for the part. Nolan later praised Pantoliano for having brought the right amount of subtlety to his performance as Teddy. And I remember I have some stuff to say about Teddy later on after the synopsis, but I also agree.
When I recognized him, I honestly thought they were just doing a remake of Matrix with this movie.
Yeah. What is Trinity and Cypher doing in my Nolan movie? Alright, so the last fun fact I have for you, ladies and gentlemen, the expiration date on Teddy's driver's license is February 29th, 2001. A day that does not exist in reality, since 2001 is not a leap year. However, in the fictional setting of this movie, it does. Or does it? Is it perhaps a Is it perhaps another hint at the unreliableness of Leonard's narration and of his memory in general?
Thoughts, ideas, they will be expressed.
Indeed.
Anyway, let's get some initial thoughts out of the way here. Ryan, I'm going to go and say, I found this movie quite forgettable. And it's a little up its own ass.
Wow.
And there are certainly some highlights, but the writing is so dense, it's denser than the more meta episodes of Community or Rick and Morty from Dan Harmon. And his stuff gets pretty fucking dense.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, initially, I can say that this is absolutely one of the most meta movies I have ever seen, but it's so well done and well executed that even though a lot of stuff is happening, it still keeps you along for the ride, and the culmination at the end really brings the majority of the pieces together, and the stuff that you don't catch is the stuff that will blow your mind all over again when you go back for a second and a third and a fifth
If you
viewing.
can, of
So
course,
I
withstand
love
seeing it a third or a fourth time.
Oh, okay, Mr. Villain. Let's get the synopsis in before
I'm chewing my
before
mustache
we start
right now.
duking it out.
It's great. We begin in medias res because the audience gets to learn what happened by jumping through the fractured memories of Lenny. But we certainly don't have time for that format here, so we'll just cut right to it. Lenny tells a stranger on the phone about how he was your typical dick of an insurance investigator, ruining the lives of disabled people for profit, driven by our capitalistic society, when his wife was attacked, raped, and killed in their home. You might say... No, I'm not going to say he deserved it. That's bad. I'm not going to say that.
Wow.
Walk it back.
Walk it
He
back.
got a head injury and now has a fictional narrative device as a disability, as an ironic twist of fate, aka anterograde amnesia. He uses this system of pictures and notes and ill-advised tattoos to act as reminders. Seriously, you'll regret getting a tattoo of the word rape on your chest at some point. Just putting it out there.
No regrets. Not even one letter.
The caller in question claims to be a cop and offers clues to help Lenny find the killer, leading to one Jimmy something, and asks to meet Lenny in the lobby. Lenny runs into an officer going by the undercover name of Kenny. So then Lenny and Kenny go to rustle some Jimmies, and we find out that this isn't even the first or last person they will ever track down to kill in the quest to find this John G, responsible for killing Lenny's wife. Lenny is told this and holds onto this memory just long enough to note that that Kenny is a liar, steals Jimmy's car, and then goes rogue. This is when he runs into a woman named Natalie based on the note in said car he thinks is for him. Natalie tests his memory issue out the only way she knows how, by humiliating a crippled person. She offers to let him stay at her place, but tricks Lenny into going after a man named Dodd, claiming he's been harassing her. It was actually Lenny that hit her, but he just, kind of forgot about it. It happens. Kenny warns Lenny about Natalie. God, these names are fucking annoying. But the name on his picture warns Lenny that Kenny is a liar, so he chooses not to trust him. She gives Lenny some clues Natalie gives Lenny some clues based on what he has told her about the case. Again, totally based on his unreliable notes right now. All the clues point to Kenny being John G. He is the John G is looking for. He takes Kenny to an abandoned building, which is the same one that they killed Jimmy, and offs Kenny. End of movie, or I guess beginning of movie. You know what I mean. Did you know, Ryan, Did you know, Ryan, that there's a DVD of this movie released where you could actually watch it in chronological order?
Yeah, but that ruins it. I mean, it doesn't ruin it, but
ruins or makes better?
No, it robs the narrative impact of the choice of how the movie is constructed.
But Ryan, I felt that the movie was a bit disorganized in its presentation, which I understand is to represent the disorganized, fractured mind of our main character. But Ryan, as an audience member, I came to see a movie from beginning to end, not this jumping all over the place bullshit.
See, that's where you and I disagree. You went to just see a story from beginning to end. I went for a cinematic experience. And the method of like this disjointed way of telling the story is a perfect tool to really getting us in the perspective of the protagonist. We're kind of learning things almost as he's learning them, because while we're going backwards in his life, like, we're learning them at the same time that he learns them. And every new piece of information that we get is just an overarching context to what he's already done, but he'll never have that context. So it's just it's very interesting.
But you see, here's the problem with that theory though. You say we learn as he learns, but does he actually learn any of this stuff? Because remember, he can't hold on to these memories. So as we're going back and back and back and back and jumping all over the place, he's not retaining any of this stuff. It's all gone after a while. So we are uncovering and learning things in this very ineffective way, or I guess not ineffective, disorganized way. I'll just stick with that. Simply for us to understand how fractured his life is. But we're not necessarily learning along with him. He's just going through the motions until until the reset button hits. So I feel like we're not actually getting into his head nearly as much as you're claiming we are.
I will admit that as the movie progresses, we're learning the overarching narrative of the story. Yes, we do kind of separate from his point of view, but I think that's also a separate thing that the movie is attempting to do, because it kind of takes us from the subjective or the objective to the subjective and vice versa. Like, where we're stuck in Leonard's point of view, and as we get further and further away from that, because we're getting the context to everything that just happened to him or everything that happened before, we're getting more of an objective understanding of what he's actually been doing. So I think it's a larger commentary on the faultiness of memory and how memory, through enough conditioning, can be altered or changed. Even the memories that you hold are like set in stone, even those can be changed with
not me, man. I got a steel trap up here. Ryan, why start in medias res? What does this benefit? Does this benefit the film, or do you think it constrains it needlessly?
So I think, it actually does, that opening sequence actually does two things at the same time. By introducing it, because it's not only just an in medias res scene, but it's also, the opening scene is also the only scene that actually goes in reverse. We actually see that in reverse, and then we see it play out. So it's kind of introducing you to the idea of going backwards through time to get this story. It just kind of gives you a taste and kind of informs the viewer, hey, we're doing some weird shit with this movie. But also that the shaking of the Polaroid is where the two timelines in this story ultimately converge at the end. So by starting there and by really emphasizing that shot, it's kind of pointing you at the most important moment of the story, but it happens at the very beginning.
All right. Was there anyone who was totally honest with Lenny, or was everyone willing to lie or take advantage of his condition?
I think it was a mix. I honestly think it was a mix of both. Because the only person that probably was straight up honest with him was Dodd. Was the guy that he ended up kidnapping and telling to get out of town or else he'll kill him. Because he didn't really interact with him that much. I don't really think he knew too much of who Lenny was, but all the questions that were asked, all of one question was, or one or two questions, were answered truthfully and honestly. I think it might be because Dodd doesn't know about his condition, and the fact that... Yeah, actually, I think it's mostly that. I just think it's mostly that. Yeah, I think it's really interesting, and I don't know if we have this later on in the story, but I think one of the really interesting things that this movie does with Teddy, not Kenny, Teddy, and Joe Cypher.
Don't these names suck?
Joe Pantoliano's character. I think the really interesting thing that it does with that is from the beginning, you kind of feel like he's a schmuck. Like, you kind of feel like he's an asshole. Like,
to be fair, they have casted him with a guy who's always a schmuck.
But I think it's actually perfect. I think it's actually like really good, like that they cast him for this role, because he brings that kind of natural, like, not taking a bunch of shit seriously, like your friend who you know is like 90% a scumbag, but you can't really prove it. Like, you can just feel it off of him. That's the feeling that I got from him. But the things that he was telling Leonard, particularly in Natalie's case, were all proven to be true. Like, he was telling him that Natalie is the boyfriend of this guy, of this drug dealer, and that she will use him in order to get whatever she needs out of him. And it's really because of his "don't trust his lies" notes on the back of his of his Polaroid.
Photo? Yeah.
Yeah, that he really gets put in the position to be manipulated by Natalie. So, like, it's almost...
A position that, I remind everybody, he made himself.
He did. He surely did. But it's almost like... I mean, what I look at his character as, because he gives his... I'm rambling, I'm sorry. But he gives his explanation of what Leonard's been doing for the past, like, year or so. And we'll probably talk about that later. But when he gives that, it explains how he wants to help Leonard, but he's also taking advantage of Leonard. And he's not completely screwing Leonard over because he's, like, giving him half the money, but, like, and he's trying to, like, facilitate his need to keep going after revenge because he can't remember it if he actually got it. But he's also taking advantage of him. And I feel like the subplot with Natalie kind of goes to prove that, because he's telling the truth about Natalie, but he's not telling him the whole truth.
I'm trying to think of how I want to go about this here. I just find it very interesting that every character, with the exception of Dodd, because again, they don't really even talk much, every character lies to him at some point or other. It's just very fascinating how that comes out. Even Lenny himself lies to himself.
Yeah.
And that leads me to my next question, which I think is the most interesting. When Lenny jots down Teddy's number, he asks, "Do I lie to myself to be happy?" In your case, Teddy, yes, I will. What alternative did Lenny have to keep Teddy from continuously using him as a killing machine?
I don't think he would have. I don't think there was any other way to get out of that cycle. Like, when he ends up getting the license plate tattooed on his leg, I feel like that is, like, that kind of makes him the last John G. Because it, like, even if he doesn't think that he got him, when he reviews all the notes, how many white male John G's have that, like, specific license plate number? Like, he's gonna get that license plate number looked up in the DMV, and it's gonna be like, oh, it's this guy, but he's dead. And that's it. You killed him. Like, it's kind of concrete evidence that points it to one person as opposed to, like, a plethora of white people named John G. So I don't think there was another way for him to get out of that, because unless he makes a note and unless he, like, commits it to, like, his
system.
tattoos his system, he's just gonna forget it, and Teddy's gonna be like, all right, so we got this guy, John G. He's down the block. You ready to go? And card game rolls on.
Well, I'm just trying to think. Could he... I'm thinking he could have written a different kind of note down for himself, like, go to cops, expose Kenny's lies, or something like that. Or Teddy's lies. You know what I mean. But, like, something else versus this whole mess, because I think things get way out of hand really quick. But I guess you could argue things have been out of hand to begin with, since,
He's been killing drug dealers for a year. I think things are fairly out of hand.
Yeah. I have to wonder, though, do you think that Lenny ever actually got the killer, or do you think there even was a killer, or, like, I don't know. There's a lot of, like, what-ifs that we aren't really informed of, because, unfortunately, his memories even his memories about his wife and prior to his current lifestyle seem a little bit unreliable, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think he got him, but I think that's ultimately the tragedy of his story, because he believes in some objective truth that, like, the things that he does has meaning to the world even if he can't remember them. So it's like he's kind of banking on, like, when I actually get John G, I'll feel something, and, like, maybe there will be a part of this that will end. But I think he's already done it, and it's already been proven to not be the case. So...
Oh, kind of like that one test with the electrical shapes and all that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh my god. So I don't know if you have any questions regarding Sammy Jenkins.
I've got one.
Can you jump to it? Because I really want to talk about Sammy Jenkins.
Okay, so the fuck's up with the Sammy Jenkins thing? Like to me, there was a point in the film where this was brought up, and I was double taking. I'm like, wait a minute, is this what I think it is? Is Lenny actually supposed to be Sammy? And what were we to take from that revelation regarding his wife, who may or may not have actually died?
So, I think, or like the movie heavily implies, like you can take it for what you will, because this movie is full of unreliable narrators. Like you have it from Leonard, whose memories are proving not to be as steel trap-y as yours. You have Teddy, who's been nothing. You have Teddy, who's constantly lying, even about his name and about the whole premise of his relationship to Leonard. So you have those two giving this information. What I think happened is that it is pretty much that it happened the way Teddy said. That there was an assault in his house, his wife was raped, but she survived the attack, but he caught the amnesia. And in the midst of it, his wife was unable to cope with his condition, and so the thing about the insulin shots was true, and his wife is actually dead, but it's because of that. It's because that happened. I think as a way to cope with the loss of his wife and with the horrible shit that's happened to him, he decided to go on a quest for revenge. And the one cop that actually believed him about the second person, i.e. Teddy, believed him and helped him get the actual guy, but his memory would not allow him to be happy with that, and so the cop just kept feeding him people and eventually started using him for his own purposes. Now, there's one clip in this there's one clip in the ending of the story of Sammy Jenkins. I had to go back and confirm, because I watched the movie and then I was watching some YouTube videos about it because I really wanted to dig a little deeper into it. And they pointed to a clip, and it's like one frame. It is like one frame. But in black and white, when he tells how Sammy ended up in a home ever since, towards the very end of that, somebody passes in front of the camera, and then right after that person passes, it cuts back to Leonard. But in the frame before it cuts back to Leonard in the call, it's actually Leonard in the nursing home.
I did see that, yeah.
Where he's... Yes! So... So that's, I believe, one of the first, really, in-your-face clues that the memory that he's repeating to this person is not as solid as he thinks he is. Yeah. And what really sells me on that is because he kept going back to the fact that if Sammy really had this amnesia, he would have been able to learn things through conditioning. He would have been able to it would have become a part of his nature, part of his instincts to avoid certain things, to avoid topics. So what if, to cope with his grief and to cope with his pain, he memorized, he created this story or modified this memory of his and kept telling it wrong, or kept telling it the way he wanted to remember it to shift his memory through conditioning.
Yeah, Lenny's a very unreliable narrator.
He is, but it's so good. There are hints throughout to what could be described as the objective truth throughout the whole movie, and they're so small and they're so well laid that if you want to watch this movie again and again and again, you will catch something new every time.
Ryan, in an interview, Nolan stated that the character's memory disorder creates an interesting problem surrounding his identity, namely reconciling who he was in the past, which he remembers, with his present circumstances, which he only partly grasps. What's the connection between this and the virtue theory?
The virtue theory. What do you mean by that?
Well, I copy-pasted this question from a discussion list that sounded interesting. Let's see what the virtue theory
that the character's memory creates an interesting problem surrounding his identity, which was who he was, and his present circumstances, which he only partially
virtue ethics, or virtue theory, is an approach to ethics that emphasizes an individual character as the key element of ethical thinking, rather than rules about the acts themselves or their consequences.
So what I'm hearing from that is essentially what is the basis of his moral the moral choices that he makes. He doesn't judge them on the acts themselves, but rather on his own moral compass. But with his identity and his memory so damaged, we really rely on him to decide on what's right, and rather than objectively view each action? Is that it?
I think I could read it that way,
yeah. So in that case, I would say I don't think Leonard relies on himself in terms of a moral standpoint. I think it goes back to his belief, his faith in a true objective world, in which case the world will be better without the person that raped and killed his wife. And so, even if he doesn't get to remember the feeling of having it happen, even if he never personally gets vengeance, for him, he's equated the morality of going after this person with the fact that this person needs to die. With that objectively the world would be better off without him. Or at least that's what I feel like he tells himself up until the end of the movie, where he kind of has this epiphany, or this near epiphany, where he kind of comes to the truth of his life and decides to turn away because it's the quest for vengeance that's keeping him going, that's keeping him living. So yeah. This is a deep one. I'm sorry.
I want to say
this is a deep movie.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna fucking go shallow for a second here. Yeah.
All right, let's get it.
Ryan, this makes me think of something. He's a character. Lenny is a character. Fucking any names.
Man, you wrote the script. I mean, somebody wrote the script. I don't remember who wrote the script.
It was probably Max. Anyway, Lenny, he's got this whole mental quirk thing. He's going around killing people. He's got this obsessive need to keep going, drive him to do this stuff. You know what it reminds me, Ryan? It reminds me of the Batman villains. And I'm thinking to myself, Lenny would find himself very, very much at home in Arkham Asylum, because I guarantee you he would be manipulated into murdering people through his memories, and then he'd have to get put in Arkham every other week.
Honestly, this guy would be a really cool Batman villain.
I'm surprised it doesn't exist yet. And here we are, without even getting to the Dark Knight trilogy, and Nolan's already doing some Batman stuff. He's been priming himself up for years. This is just a demo tape, just a demo reel. It's all this. It's not even really a movie, if we're being honest here.
Yeah, this is a test of his fanfic, where he's creating Batman villains for the Rogue Gallery.
We call him Polaroid.
Yep. Oh, that's so good! Oh, that's so good! I love it.
So, Warner Brothers, you want to call me for this idea? I guarantee I can get you something more original than a guy with memory problems. Here we are. Anyway, Ryan, we again have another woman character in a Nolan film, acting in opposition of sorts to our protagonist. Is Christopher Nolan sexist? And why does he lead so much on this trope?
I don't think Christopher Nolan is sexist.
I don't know. He seems to hate women.
I don't believe he hates women. Yes, this movie definitely has a female character as more of the driving force of a subplot rather than like the actual the actual driving force of the story, and she's a pretty shitty person. I mean, there are you see elements of goodness in her, because I think there is genuinely a part of her that feels really bad about what's happening to Leonard. But at the end of the day, she does a very, very shitty thing to him, and it's all out of manipulation, like Teddy said she would. So, being his second movie, I don't think that necessarily speaks to his view on women as a whole.
Wait till we get to his third and his fourth.
Well, I mean, we'll definitely have something to say regarding next week's. Yes. But that's neither here nor there. I'm getting ahead of myself. In this particular movie, I wouldn't say she's sexist.
Got you stuck in a little bit of a rock and hard place here.
You really do. You really do. Okay, no, I'm thinking too hard on this. I think the fact that it's his second, I think the fact that it's his second movie is not indicative of his feelings on women in general. I think this character, while doing horrible shit, is actually very complex. She's a very 3D character. She has complex motivations, and you see all of those at work throughout the course of the movie. So I think the complexity and the depth to which the character is written, even though she's not a driving force in the movie, would point to the fact that he's not sexist, because she's not just a cardboard cutout or a diversity hire, so we can say, look, we have women in the film.
I guess not even really evil. Make her an obstacle. Make her an obstacle.
I mean, there are stereotypes of women obstacles. There are stereotypes of women as trophies for the good guy at the end. There are stereotypes of helpful, matronly, motherly women. There are stereotypes of women everywhere. I don't think this character fits one stereotype. I think she's too complex for that, and that's why I say he's not sexist.
Ryan, to prove me wrong, I dare you to come up with a story right now that passes the Bechdel test.
This movie does not pass the Bechdel test because there's only one woman. Nope, there's two women, but they exist in two separate timelines. So
not to spoil a joke from the new one of the newer Rick and Mortys, but there's a point where Rick asks Morty to tell a story that passes the Bechdel test, and it's the most bland, insipid, but stupid story Morty could come up with. It's wonderful. Fighting lady scorpions with heavy special time. It's great.
Oh my god, I've really got to catch up.
Anyway, moving on. Ryan, what are your thoughts regarding amnesia and memory-related stories? Do you have a favorite example of this memory loss trope?
This is my favorite example of memory loss. I mean, so this movie is so unique. Not only because of the way it decides to tell the story, but also just how close and how deep it gets into what it's like to have this problem. Because you're learning a lot of information at the same time and at the same speed that Leonard is. Yes, like we mentioned earlier, we get more objective towards the end because we're able to keep track of the whole story where the main character is not. But I think there are enough moments littered throughout the movie where we're still right there with him, learning something brand new as he is. In fact, going backwards still keeps us in his shoes because he is learning, like we're learning that at the same time as he is. We don't, like, he doesn't have the bigger context of what that means, like, in the long run, but the initial shock of, holy shit, this lady's actually a horrible, horrible person, and I have to write this down, otherwise she's gonna get away with it, is present, like, right there, and we learn that right there with the protagonist. So I think the clever way of telling the story really makes this my favorite take on an amnesia story because it gets the closest to feeling it. Not only in kind of like an objective sense with just like actually learning the stuff, but with Leonard's monologues and like his constant retelling of the story of Sammy Jankis. You really get into, like, how it feels to have that, and, like, how every single thing that you're coming across is brand new, and in order to just maintain some degree of socialism, you end up faking it so that people won't treat you as different. Like, it's really deep, and I like it. I like it a lot. So yes, this is my favorite.
I would say, this obviously is my favorite. It's the worst one example possible. I would say the best one is definitely the absolute classic movie that you cannot go without seeing, and that would be Finding Dory. Because it's a story about trying to find the identity without really knowing the identity. I think it actually meshes those ideas together so much better. And there's an octopus in there, and it's great. It's awesome. But, because I know there are people out there who don't like animation.
Looking at you, Oscar.
Look at you, Oscar Committee. I would say that I had it fucking up on my phone a second ago. Shit, what it was again? I had a really good example. Where'd it go? Oh yeah, Pandorum. It's a movie about these guys in space, and the ship is attacked by aliens, and Pandorum is a I guess, mental disease where one goes crazy and memories don't quite line up with what's going on. And how everything unfolds is pretty fascinating based on just all the chaos that ensues. It's a very good horror flick, sci-fi horror flick that we'll recommend checking out. We'll definitely recommend it.
Okay. Interesting.
Of course, I'm always recommending sci-fi horror because I don't think there's enough of it. At least there's not enough good sci-fi horror.
Yeah.
Let's see. We have discussed unreliable narrators in the past. Let's see. We kind of already discussed how this would hold up for you. You like this one, obviously. We've talked about it. So we'll jump to my final question here. Final question. The movie closes with Lenny saying, "We all need mirrors to remind ourselves of who we are. I am no different." Lenny's mirrors were his memory devices. What sort of mirrors, quote unquote, do people with normal memories rely on to remind themselves of who they are? And no, you don't get points for saying mirrors.
Do I get points for saying mementos?
I mean,
hey!
If you have something to back it up with, I'm not going to stop you.
Well, I mean, so the great thing about memory as a as a fully functioning memory is that we can create, when we create new memories, we can also assign them and link them to other things. So it doesn't have to just be as as blatant as a note on your chest that says your wife was murdered and you
Vengeance.
need to avenge her death. You can, vengeance, just vengeance on your chest. I'm Batman. But I mean, we have memories tied to all of our senses. Like I can smell banana pudding and think of times when I was 5 years old and cooking it with my dad for the first time. Like in the kind of subjective sense, that is a quote unquote mirror because it's kind of like a gateway to memory. So in this movie, we have him looking at all of these. We're trying to burn these various mementos, if you will, of his wife in an attempt to forget her, because the memories of his wife is what's causing him pain. But he can't remember to forget her, which is really sad. Really, really fucking tragic. But back to your question, I think I would go with that. We can create memories and assign them to other things and mementos so that we don't have to just have objective notes telling us what we're supposed to feel and previous conclusions that we've gathered based on evidence in the past that we can't remember.
To make the story personal, I know a mirror, if you will, a memory mirror, if you will, for me, would be music. There's a lot there. I'm not the biggest music guy out there, but there's certainly a great number of songs out there that do resonate with me in certain ways. They trigger either certain memories from the past in terms of breakups or family events, or just some good memories, chilling with the boys, playing games and whatnot, and they all click. I mean, I can't think of a negative memory at all tied to any of the Sonic songs, because those are great times of me playing games with the buddies and just doing some dumb bullshit. So. Or riding along and playing Bohemian Rhapsody.
Oh God, there are no terrible memories connected to Bohemian Rhapsody.
Well, aside from the content of the song itself, but whatever, that's the point.
Yeah, no, I mean just the song. Like, everybody gets into a good mood when we hear Bohemian Rhapsody. Don't take this away from me.
That's all I have for questions, Ryan. You passed my test, I think. Before we get on to reviewing this film, it's shit. We're going to go ahead and talk about the mail call. If you want to reach out to us and tell us what you think about the movie, whether you like it or not, whether you want to see more of this stuff, or if you have other suggestions, comments, or concerns, you can reach out to us. Tumblr, Twitter, and Facebook, those are places you can go to and stuff. And then you can also reach out to us directly by email. Ryan, do you remember that email?
That email is... fuck. Well, I've got it written down somewhere. It's fucking... Cypher is the killer? No, that makes no sense. No, sorry. It's evacstation at gmail.com.
Write it down, everybody. Write it down. Evacstation at gmail.com. Write it down. Right is the part where we talk about the movie again, but this time we talk about it in a final sense. So we talk about the how we rank it. I believe we have a system. Let me see. I have it tattooed on my dick here. From platinum to
that
trash.
Must have been painful, but then again, you can't remember the pain, so kudos, I guess?
I guess so. So from platinum to trash, and all the colors in between. God, that hurts.
It's horrible.
Ryan, where do you want to rank this one?
All right, so
Oh wait, I get my
yeah, you get your unventing. So
so everyone, I played the villain this time. I don't know if you noticed at all, but no, I like this one. I actually did find the gimmick enjoyable. I would say that when we were jumping back and forth at the beginning, at first it was incredibly disorienting, but after you do it enough times, it smooths out a bit and starts becoming a pretty fun ride. Not unlike sex, where after the first 3 times you start to kind of get the hang of it. I would know because my dick is tattooed and it hurts.
Do you think his wife's gonna let him anywhere near her with a tattooed penis? I mean, I'm sorry. Continue on, please, with your ranking.
Ryan, we're in the middle of trying to make a baby here, so if she has no choice in the matter, I guess. Sorry, that sounds incredibly rapey. No, if she has a choice, she has chosen to have a baby. So there you go. Anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, so I know the movie's a pretty good ride. I would say that I would have liked to maybe embellish a bit more on Kenny's character, but that requires Teddy. Embellish more on
Teddy?
Teddy's character, but that requires Lenny to essentially. So
believe his lies.
The shortcomings of the film are just due to the main character's decisions to not allow himself to be more open to other characters, which works and doesn't work. I like it, but there are some speed bumps. But overall, it's still fun. Still a good movie. I liked it. I would say for me, it would probably be high silver, low gold, probably in that ballpark.
Okay. Well, I was the champion of this movie,
No.
in case y'all weren't aware.
I thought you hated this shit.
And I stand by everything that I've said. I think this is one of the most brilliant pieces of storytelling and one of the most inventive ways to tell a story about amnesia that I've ever seen. I haven't seen it in years, so watching it for this podcast, it just blew me away all over again. And the concept of there being so much in the movie that with second and third watches, you're going to catch more and more stuff. And that's, honestly, those are my favorite types of stories because one new thing that you catch on a rewatch changes the entire story for you. And you just get to wrestle with it all over again with the new piece of information. I am a sucker for that shit. That being said, there was a lot happening in this movie. It was a lot that was going on. If you love that shit, this is candy. This is gravy. This is perfect for you. But there is a lot that you have to keep track of. And I believe that this is also only his second movie. As we go along and as he progresses with his skill as a filmmaker and as a storyteller, he learns to kind of pare down the unnecessary stuff while still keeping the story engaging and complex. So I'm also going to give this a high silver because it's amazing, but later on down the road, he learns how to really streamline his process, and the stories become much stronger as a result.
Hello, Batman. I'm the Polaroid. You can't stop me because... Wait. Why am I here? Fuck. Batman, why am I here?
Yeah, so go ahead, come with me. I'll take you to somebody. They'll be able to explain it to you.
Okay, good. I was a little confused there for a minute.
Next tattoo. Don't go anywhere with Batman.
Writes it on his fucking Polaroid about him. Batman always lies.
Yep.
Thank you for listening. That got weird. That got a little weird. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next week for Insomnia. Until then, we'll see you after the credits.
Bye.